in the blip a lot. I feel the feeling I forgot, or swimming weightless in the womb, or bouncing gently round the room. In a minute I'll be free, and you'll be splashing in the sea. I feel no curiosity. I see the path ahead of me. In a minute I'll be free, and you'll be splashing in the sea. We'll hear a tiny cry as the ship goes sliding by. Free.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you're here. Welcome to Friday, everyone. Welcome to the weekend astrology report. We actually are going to have a first quarter moon here on this weekend, so we're going to focus primarily on this half moon that we see in this thumbnail actually today. This gorgeous photograph of the half moon that was taken by some amateur astronomical photographer. So welcome back, everyone. Welcome if you're new to this channel. If this is your first time here, thank you for being here. I truly appreciate you taking the time. A little out of my element right now. As you can probably tell, I'm not streaming from my usual studio. I am puppy sitting. It's incredibly distracting. You cannot get any work done with a puppy around, but it's a short term. Wow. It's a short term situation and doing somebody a favor. So, Hello to the Starseed Fellowship. We had a great gathering yesterday afternoon on Zoom. The recording is posted for those who weren't able to make it, either on Subscribestar or on our private Telegram channel. So we talked about a lot of different things, and of course we're going to talk all about the astrology today, and maybe weave some of those topics into what's coming through with the astrology for the weekend. But it ranged from religion to food shortage to just everybody's feeling about the nature of the duality, and the polarization and how exhausting it feels. And now that our moon is in Cancer, and in fact this is where the moon is going to square the sun this weekend, and there's a sense of really just kind of rooting ourselves and making some decisions. And yeah, it is exhausting. It's exhausting to live a life that is primarily and only explained or defined by this polarization. And in fact, we've been living in this reality for, thousands of years. And it is, in a lot of ways, the nature of expanding consciousness is to move into the realm of the dialectic. It is through the duality or the polarization within and outside of us that we're able to create, and transform and transmute. That's part of the experience of being a spiritual being in a material form. And this is part of the expansion of consciousness. This is part of the journey, but it's exhausting. And with the moon in Gemini the last couple of days, only just yesterday coming into Cancer, I think we've all been feeling it quite directly, the back and forth. And one of the, Mercury being the agent of Gemini is going to be moving through the last degrees of Aries this weekend, is going to be making a square to Pluto in the process, and there will be a T-square between Pluto and the moon in Cancer that is really important to take a look at, because it's showing how even with the exhaustion, even with the feelings, right? When we attach our feelings, as in the moon represents to the dialectic, the polarization of Gemini, then yeah, it can be a lot, especially for a very empathic or moon ruled person, or have a lot of water in our chart, finding ourselves really easily pulled into the churning of that experience of back and forth of Gemini. So, but coming into Cancer, there's a root system that's establishing, there's a decision, there's a flag that's been planted, and now there's a sense of feeling out, the security of that, the stability of it. What do we have to do to make it stronger? How do we grow within our own character, and our self-esteem? These are all Cancerian themes of guardianship, protection, family, intimacy, but very much about the individual's consciousness feeling safe and secure emotionally within that vessel. But Mercury's in Aries, and the thoughts, the expression, just the mental energy has been popping off. It's just been a lot of agitation in our thoughts, possibly, or a lot of potency and desire. There's so much in front of us that has not necessarily been, at least in my opinion, and this is something we talked about, that has not come to be decided yet. That is up to us. There may be a singular point that we're moving towards in the not so distant future that we're all going to go through together, and it will, how we go through that, how we step across that threshold together, is going to have an impact on what it's like on the other side, and that's where I think the timeline split concept may be more relevant of experience. But in the meantime, how we get there and the nature of the human collective at this point is still really undecided, as far as I can tell. So how we approach everything is really up to us. We get to make these decisions. And so the sun is coming into the third decan of Aries, and remember, this is the completion, the Venus in Aries, the Four of Wands. It's it's substantiation, right? I'm so distracted because this camera is on a different computer and it's backwards, and You can tell that I'm just having a day. And ever since yesterday, it's just been go, 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 and just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. And that is actually something we talked about last night or yesterday too. That it seems like the only way to really manage ourselves without kind of getting exhausted or pulled into a very drastic back and forth in our emotions is to just ride it out, and to find not so much our stillness. That's definitely part of it, especially in the last day or so with the sun. How we generate our own life force and potency within ourselves rather than constantly outputting it. But it's important that we don't give up on, the idea that in every moment we get to make a choice about how the next moment's going to be and the next moment's going to be. And Aries is all of that potential, all of that desire, all of that optimism. And there's a lot of that in the chart this weekend. Now, the square to the moon, with our first quarter squares, we're going to look at the chart, the crisis point, which we always, the first and third quarter, always like the challenge to these points of beginning and culmination with the new and full moon. Here's our challenge, crisis in action. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Now, the sun is way more disposed to do things, right? Because it's an output of energy for the most part, and a combustion and a release, right? The sun represents the energy and light that comes out as a result of what's happening within, right? And these are these Aries themes again, right? About how we are not separate necessarily from what's outside, and what's going on inside of us is a reflection of the natural processes. And same with a sun or a star. It's going to expend its energy as a result of its inner nuclear fusion, right? The catalyzing reactions and the release of energy. So we're going to be more disposed, I think, in general, to lean towards that sun expression in Aries, which is very much a climax of all that virtue that comes in the second decan of Aries, or that Three of Wands, right? That we're going to be almost naively thinking and feeling and expressing ourselves through compassion to overcome some sort of crisis. Here, I can give of what I have, my inner potency, my life force, everything that's generating, much like a sun, right? But this is still not a solar rebirth. This is the charge within each of us that is ready to extend out and give to that which are those who find themselves without the means to do this, right? It's very it's very tempting. And if you had access to your new moon astrology forecast because you are a monthly subscriber, then you know that I talked a lot about this weekend and the everything about it. Because what do we do? What do we do? Are we expressing ourselves in this really, looking out and looking up and giving all of the energy we've generated within ourselves, just like a little kid feeding the birds in the winter, right? And the crisis is the winter, right? That there's not enough food to go around, or those who can't necessarily manage, right? And so we feed the birds. But the moon in Cancer, at the same time, the square is going to be this nagging feeling. I have a sense, and where this is at in your chart is going to show you what area of your life you may feel this tension or this conflict. Is it, are we able to actually feel a sense of happiness and fulfillment within the confines or the construct of our most intimate relationships, our marriage, our home and family of origin, our home and and when I say that, definitely the household you grew up in and the nature of your parents and your relationship with them, or whoever they were, or also even broader than that, a sense of your inner life, or your love of country, or your nation, or your regional or clan identity. All of these things represent emotional, familial bonds that hold the individual sense of self, right? Your root system. So while we are expressing ourselves, and remember, we had an Aries new moon with Chiron, with Mercury. There's a lot of this. We can do anything. I can be anything, because all of the potential still is generated within the subjective ego consciousness. And with the sun here, I mean, it is springtime here in the Northern Hemisphere, right? Especially in those zones that are like, 4, 5, 6, like planting, zones, gardening zones. So it's a little bit more obvious, but emotionally is the situation that we're committed to, that we're loyal to, we're faithful to, is that actually we're going to be able to feel any sense of happiness and fulfillment? Is it, are we able, regardless of where you find this in your chart, it's going, and it's not a full picture, right? These quarter moons are half illuminated, so you feel the whole experience, but in terms of the sun's illumination, there's something missing, and we have to be aware of that. And the crisis point will be, this is happening tonight into tomorrow morning, like 2:45 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. So tonight into tomorrow, this becomes exact. But what we're going to find is that there's plenty here in the astrology that's like, well, what do I do? Well, this is what you can do. And there's going to be a really beautiful grand water trine that's actually a kite, and it's going to be the nodes of the moon as the spine of the kite, and then you have Jupiter, the south node, and the moon in Cancer that are forming this grand water trine that is emotionally stabilizing, and based on the momentum from our past incarnations, which has been complicated because it's Scorpio. So I'm going to check in with the chat. I want to make sure that everything is working over there, see how people are doing, making sure that it's a healthy stream. It looks good. Let us know how you're doing. If you were part of the fellowship last night, I'm pretty sure I already know how you're doing, but things change all the time now. I mean, that's the level of, when you talk about increased frequency, right? Having a higher vibration, it is a wavelength that is moving faster, more oscillations per unit of time, and so things are moving faster because of that. Plus we're moving through a part of our galaxy that is exposing us to a lot more plasma and just cosmic radiation in general, right? So that's having an impact, and all down the line into the very micro, and that's really what Aries is representing, is the most micro, right? It is the spark of life within the material seed point, whatever that is for you. That is the micro at its most micro for us. And so with Chiron and the sun and Mercury, especially Mercury making its transition to Taurus this weekend, there is a lot of potential that is building, and there's certainly some fighting words that, and I've talked about this before, but it's very much part of this weekend's astrology in terms of where Mercury is. And to remember, this is something that has come up now in a number of personal reading, in the fellowship reading. I posted it, I think, somewhere. And it's not my concept. I got it from Dane Rudger in the Astrological Mandala, but it's a specific degree of Aries, where there's a sense of almost admiration for those who step into the ring and bring their A game, right? Victory in a dualistic world is always temporary. And I think that that's really sticking to a lot of people, right? It's certainly to me, right? Because we have been set up, and the chessboard remains intact, and we're still all playing on it, apparently. What is it going to take to be free? And this is where we start really problem solving and considering how, as a society, as a global society, as the human consciousness evolving, how do we move out of this? Because what I see, and I think other people see as well, is that there's still a lot of really deep entrenchment. And the biggest challenge is going to come when you are faced with an opposition that is truly, represents the most heinous things. And you see it unfolding, and it has been now for 2 years, but now it's that much more clear. And it's a lot to do with Pluto in its position in very, very late Capricorn. Pluto's going to go retrograde at the end of this month. Okay, actually, we're going to start getting into retrograde season. We're going to have Pluto, Saturn, Neptune retrograde, right? We're going to have a Mercury retrograde during spring into summer, or this season. So there's a lot to talk about here. Oh, I'm checking out the chat here. Alex K says he's still feeling dizzy, probably a new strain of something. I watched y'all's chat though from last night. Great insights and combos. Yeah, we missed you. We absolutely missed you. Oh, yay! You caught me live. Light on Change. Missed last night again. I'll keep trying. And it moves around, right? Friendly Minder, show some love. Hit the thumbs up. You are great. I love that. Seems like things are accelerating. Starting to watch the Collier. Everything's stepping up, right? Great convo last night. Yeah, it was great. And I'm really, one of the things that came out from that too is that just us meeting like that and meeting like this. And I'll be honest that there is a definite difference in how I present material based on whether I'm live or just recording. In terms of like a larger audience, when I'm recording personal readings, I'm very much connected into that person energetically. So it's not the same, but when we get together like this, even over the internet, we have an impact on the Aquarian bandwidth of the human consciousness as a whole. And this is how we impact, where we go, right? Because there's no, I know that people talk about NPCs, and I'm not going to challenge your particular belief system or your, if that's something that allows your mind to wrap around how certain people are acting. I just don't think that anybody's an NPC anymore, right? Every human on this planet is having an equal impact on the field of human consciousness. And so everybody's a playable character. Everybody. That's just my opinion. And I know that goes against a lot of what has been presented. And I really question that a lot. I've questioned it for a while because you see that in certain groups and certain narratives about the NPC. And it's very tempting. It's really tempting to just be like, that's what they are, so that you can like get on with your day and make sense of what's happening with people around you that are like, what, who are you? Like, why? We're going to have such intense work. Seems like things are accelerating. Yep, they truly are. And this Aries energy is certainly not helping. But what's interesting is that there's been all these connections with Aquarius and Aries in a sextile. So there's a lot of support too. And I think that there is something to be said from, the addition of the individual life force through our own action and behavior to, and even substantiation into the ultimate, the bandwidth of the collective. And so we still have impact on that, definitely. So I'm going to get into the charts here now that we've checked in. Alex K, I think I'm going to send you a message, a DM, because I'm just curious, let's talk about your symptoms more if you want, because I've definitely have had a lot of experiences of feeling, dizzy, vertigo, my proprioception totally off. And sometimes it had to do with upgrades, and sometimes it had to do with intrusion. And I just, I want to help you because I feel like that I've gone through a lot of that before. And, if it's been lasting for another day, then I feel like that something is definitely changing, or has changed in your body and your sense of balance, right? And your sense of balance in the world. It sucks to feel like that and to have vertigo. Oh my gosh. The first time I really had COVID, that was one of the main symptoms was, I never had vertigo like that. It would be like if I tipped this laptop on its side, and that's what it felt. That's what my experience. The entire world went like this. That's never happened to me, especially not when I've been sober. So, there's a lot of things that can impact it. Not the least of which is electromagnetics. I posted a really awesome paper on Telegram that's about bees and electromagnetics and how there's, we know this, but now there's research being published about how electromagnetic fields impacting pollinators, and talk about food shortages, right? Like, yeah. Okay, I'm trying to bring this up here. Okay, guys. You think I could multitask, but there we go. Here's our chart for today. We can get rid of this thumbnail as well. So, and minimize this here because we're really focusing on this chart. So today is the 8th of, today's the 8th of April, 2022. Okay, guys. So as you can see, like I said, the sun is in Aries. Mercury is now coming into the last 5 degrees of Aries. So once it moves into Taurus by the end of the weekend, right? This is where the mental energy starts to really substantiate and start to get down to reality here. So this might be a bit of a reality check. Now remember here, well, or just take a look that Mercury is on its way to being conjunct with Uranus. That's actually going to be on the 18th of April. And you also notice that the sun will do the same, and eventually Venus, when she comes into Taurus later this season, she's also going to meet Uranus. And so there's an emergence that Uranus is representing right this moment, a natural emergence, something that reminds us not to lose our connection to where this consciousness has been emerging from in the first place, but also not to fall back into it entirely, like to be still on the land, so to speak, but maybe close by the ocean, if that makes sense, and how these two things can work together. This is where Uranus is right now. And so as much as the dialectic and the polarization has been exhausting and difficult, what we find is Uranus exactly placed here to, provide the trigger of awakening towards the more seamless experience of emergence of consciousness. And of course, this is the same area where the North Node is. So we know that we're all on a soul level, being pulled and drawn towards these themes of natural value, intrinsic worth, fertility, patience, all of the Taurus energies, and especially the Pleiadian energies, and the natural processes and the substance of the material world. Fixed Earth is Taurus. So, it's hard when it's Uranus, and that's not going away anytime soon, unfortunately. So there's going to be quite some awakenings, right? Especially Mercury. I mean, coming on the 18th, this is a pretty, an aha moment in some ways, maybe a rude awakening perhaps. And then the sun, when it meets Uranus, that's like freedom, right? Freedom and through this process. So we have things to look forward to, right? The acceleration is absolutely here, and you can feel it. Everybody can feel it. So let's go through today's astrology and see what's going on here for us. So one thing to consider here is that in terms of where Mercury is and will be, there is this moment here of kind of existing in two places at once. So even allowing the mind to find that, that ability to really believe in what we can experience, right? We're only going to be able to experience it if we actually believe we can experience it. And this allows us the capacity to see the world and ourselves both on the inside and the outside, right? About what we believe and the possibility of experiencing it. So the mind, whatever, depending on where you find this in your chart, it's going to be related to that particular area when it comes to these themes in particular. Venus is now in Pisces, and this has been, I think, for the most part so far, it's been I keep wanting to say it's nice, and that's so generic. It's been, I think this is where a lot of the difficulties actually are coming from. I anticipated much more of a, imagination. And I think that this is here in a sense of real compassion that we can embody and love. And I do sense that. And I sense some more patience in some ways when it comes to being, being dissolved into the experience of oneness or unity consciousness, right? This is that Princess of Cups. So the boundaries are more fluid, or again, the water may be coming up a little, the tide is coming in, so to speak. And so again, it can be a little bit difficult to, depending on where you find yourself, you may find yourself drifting back out to sea, or you may find yourself moving even more further away, I suppose, from this experience of unity consciousness. But for the most part, I feel like it's allowing us to embody in our sensitivity, in our relationships or projects, anything that has material or intrinsic value to us, as Venus rules Taurus, is allowing us to kind of let those boundaries go just enough to, kind of float in the ocean in some ways, right? That's kind of I keep getting this sense of like the float tank, right? Where you're in your body, but you're also not, you're in the woo, so to speak, as well. So it's still at the beginning of Pisces, and is really just now kind of dipping into that space. And so we're kind of feeling like, oh, this is what it feels like. And that may be difficult. That's some of the stuff we talked about too, like how difficult it is to maintain your compassion and true connection and love for people at like a spiritual level, while also being aware of the limitations in some ways, or just for me, I've been very reminiscent because I'm back in my hometown after not being here for a really long time, and it's difficult to maintain relationships just in general with people you haven't seen in a really long time. But now there's like just the elephant and all the elephants in the room, and it's difficult as well to maintain those, even try to reestablish those relationships when you have just even the tiniest inkling, just based on little things, what they post on social media, what they've said to you in public, what they do, how they, go through their day. I just pick up on these things and I'm like, oh, well, boy, that's hard. So I think that's the other thing with Venus. Like we may kind of, there may be kind of like a sadness there, or a sense of reminiscing maybe, or just the struggle of the empathy struggle of being in that space. So the moon transits, though, we're going to look at those because and then there's going to be we're going to talk about this because Jupiter and Neptune are going to come into a conjunction very soon. And in the meantime, Jupiter exactly last night actually was in a trine to the South Node and a sextile to North Node. And you can see it's sitting right here at 23 degrees, right? This is the jewelry shop, right? That's the Sabian symbol. The idea that we as the social consciousness or the collective energies of us will place some sort of value on a process that really had nothing to do with us, right? It is the value is developed as a result of time and the pressure that creates these beautiful gems, and then we turn them into something that shows that we see the value of that, and that's where the North Node is. And so Jupiter coming at 223 degrees of Pisces is that medium, the materializing medium that gives everything in order to substantiate something, right? Something very precious usually has to be given over in order to do these types of things, right? And you may notice that people get very tired after channeling or an energy work that that really does require that the medium or the channel or whoever like give their energy to the situation to substantiate something. So but with Jupiter, it's like this big meaning, right? It's larger than life. It's gives you all of the motivation and optimism and like big picture understanding to be like, yes, I'm going to give everything I have to make this happen. And again, it's what's interesting about the sextile here is so much about this position of Taurus is about the natural inherent value. Like, what is it exactly that is materializing from the realm of the unity consciousness, from the realm of the astral, from the realm of the plasma field, however and the spiritual collective unconscious, the Pisces. What is it that is just expanded so much in this moment that in fact is going to it's like it gives us the push in order to keep going towards this this direction that really doesn't it really doesn't have anything to do with us other than our acknowledgement of this natural process. And we're still in this Pleiadian territory right now. So again, it's like coming back into communion with the natural world and the natural processes and how all of it works together in communion to create life as we know it. And it's just us about, our human consciousness putting some sort of stamp of approval or a sense of recognition. So, and it goes both ways, right? As we are being drawn to this area at a soul level, right? Not even realizing maybe why we're going there. It's just this obsession. The head of the dragon, it can be like that. We also are able to, it will expand and give more meaning to this conscious ideal that we want to materialize, to substantiate. And perhaps it is just time that needs to be given or given over. I think that's and patience. Wow, that came through really strongly, actually. So I think that's a big part of what this is right here. And that's difficult with Mercury in Aries, the sun in Aries, right? There's just so much very personally accessible energy through the sun and Mercury that is, much more charged right now. And of course with Chiron here. And that's actually what I want to bring up, because as you can see here, the moon in conjunction with Sirius, fixed star Sirius, is in a square to Chiron. And will come into a square with the sun, obviously, by the end of today into tomorrow morning. But this square with Chiron, with the moon in conjunction with Sirius, is, we're starting to feel like the power of our own will in shaping our own character, right? There's a determination, there's a steadiness here with this degree of Cancer. This is serious, right? A high sense of responsibility for the shaping of our character, or an unnecessary aggressiveness. And with these two in a square, the moon in a square to Chiron like this, and this potential, absolutely. So be mindful of that as well, that people may act out of this aggressiveness in order to, as a result of their determination, because of a sense of, I would say, a frustration, right? I'm going to make something happen, right? I'm going to make something happen because I know that the template already exists. And of course, the overlay of Chiron as a symbol is, hey, this is who you are. And it brings out, oh, look, another polarization, victim and savior, right? I can't do anything about who I am, but I'll try to help all these other people that have gone through this process too, right? And then you never heal yourself. This is such a tool, right, to manipulate and exploit us all right now. And people could very easily get pulled into acting in what they feel like is determination, or at least feeling, that feeling of determination may find an expression through some sort of Chiron action that is, very explosive in a lot of ways. And so that's the thing about Sirius. The star system in Sirius is the darkest, right? These are the shamans, and not all shamans are good, right? They're not there to help people. They are there to practice a dark magic and to do things to make money and to have power, right? It's really about power. So this also feels like a way where people could easily utilize, feel into their determination and in order to exercise some sort of power that appeases their sense of victimhood or savior. Oh boy, there's, I'm curious to see how this turns out. So Mercury is also going to sextile Mars. So we talked about this just now, how there are these, sextiles with all this Aries to Aquarius energy. And Mars is coming into the last 5 degrees of Aquarius too. It's soon going to come into Pisces. And then that's really going to be a sense of like, spiritual martyr, right? Spiritual warrior martyr. But in the meantime, while it's in these last degrees of Aquarius, it's still within 3 degrees of Saturn. So we're coming off of it. It's getting less and less, but it's still very much present. But this sextile to Mercury here at 26 degrees of Aries, this is number one. Mercury is now coming into orb with Andromeda Galaxy. So speaking of Alex Collier, I have to get more into his story because I'm not entirely sure if we're talking about the Andromeda Galaxy or the star systems in the Andromeda constellation, which I don't really weave too much into my starseed readings because at that point it's just like it's just like a whole new level, and I don't have a lot of information, so I feel like that this is going to open a door for that. But the Andromeda Galaxy I know lots about because I have it as well, and this is a galaxy outside, the Andromeda Galaxy is our sister galaxy, or actually on point to apparently to have a collision with Andromeda. We may have even come from Andromeda at the very beginning, right, as a Milky Way galaxy splitting. So Andromeda is also a spiral galaxy. The physics are probably different there, as you can imagine. Andromeda and starseeds have they have a memory of 6 limbs. They have a set of wings, right? And these starseeds they're on the front lines of social revolution because freedom, liberty, right, are primary. So Mercury moving into orb and in conjunction with Andromeda Galaxy this weekend is also setting up our full moon that's coming, right? Because it's going to be the full moon is going to be this dialectic or this natural polarization along the axis of not only Andromeda Galaxy, but Arcturus. So we'll talk a lot more about that next week. But in the meantime, Mercury is kind of coming over this position, and the thoughts, I need to be free to say what I need to say, to think what I need to think, to freely engage my mind and my mental energy where I want to go. And at any given moment, it is an opportunity to exercise my life force or, express my potency of subjective experience and desire. Right. And it's going to get really, I just feel like it's gonna reach this kind of like, demand to be free. And that's the thing about Andromeda and starseeds, dude. They are the flakes. They are the flakiest of the starseed community because you make my third house cusp is Andromeda. I totally get this in terms of my immediate environment, my when I choose to communicate, and even the realm of my mind. If it is not exactly where I want to be in that moment, I won't go. I've learned over the years how to manage this part of myself so that I don't have fourth house issues, right? In terms of like really the people that I have bonds with. You don't want to Andromeda and starseeds. That's the thing. They're on the front lines of social revolution, but that's it. They are the charge, right? They're in front leading the charge. So Mercury in front leading the charge to the mind through expression is going to sextile. Is going to be in a sextile to Mars in Aquarius today. And so this is a warning. This particular degree of Aries is a warning. This is when we become so obsessed by the potential that of everything that you just kind of start dropping shit, right? And it's like having more gifts than you can hold and you start dropping it, or you're trying to juggle too many things. And in this case, it's in the mind, expression, communication. All of these potentialities are reaching a point where we could easily blow the whole thing if we keep trying to accumulate or generate. It's going to be with Mars, who rules Aries, by the way. In this degree of Aquarius that is really going to allow us to take this energy that may go nowhere and actually give it a place to go, or a place to even transmute into. And this is about mental efficiency, skill in applying our knowledge of natural law to everyday solutions, right? This is about testing the battery to make sure that it actually will have enough moisture to hold a charge. This is a moment where it's kind of interesting because Mars you'd think would be, acting on this, and it is, but it's acting on it in a way that's like, let's make sure that the mind actually has the capacity to hold all of this charge by testing the moisture in the battery, right? And so take advantage of this sextile today. That's what I would say in this instance, because otherwise you may find people that are just overwhelming their own mind, and they could short themselves out, right? If there's not, or they just they don't have the capacity. And when we say water and moisture, really think about it as an Aquarian thing of the water bearer, that it's your feels, it's your spirit, it's your sense of internal feeling that needs to be able to hold the charge. And I think that we could get a lot from this today, so that we don't actually like blow a fuse in some way in throughout this weekend, because I think that this first quarter moon is going to really challenge people. I feel challenged already with it, but it's going to that water trine that we're going to look at is going to be just remarkable, and you'll see why, and you'll see exactly what it is, and how it connects to the full moon is really cool. And if you got your forecast, then you know exactly where this is going. So the last thing I want to point out too is that at the same time, the moon is in a sextile to Uranus, right, in Taurus. And so this transit is, again, this is in conjunction with Sirius, making this connection to Uranus and Taurus. And I think that if we can find the root into the changeless wisdom, into the infinite void that Cancer, obviously, and the moon in Cancer really strongly, and then the fixed star Sirius representing that concept within many ancient cultures, cosmologies, as the infinite void in which creation is able to establish itself, right? The womb, but it's the infinite womb, right? It is the holy grail, but it's infinite, and changeless wisdom that goes to the core of everything. This sextile, I think, is really going to emotionally allow us to manage the disruptions, right, in terms of Uranus and Taurus, because yes, that's having an impact on our actual physical material resources in life, right? The currency and food, right? These are real things here, and this is what Taurus represents, the actual things around you that allow you to exist in the world. Something here in terms of an emotional stability that is beyond the material world, that is deeper and infinite, is something that is going to not only stabilize, but even more than that, it's going to actually allow us to transmute this experience that otherwise may just be Uranus shaking us around and going, I don't know what's happening. I don't know. And that was part of our conversation. People can't even make plans, right? What am I going to do in the next 6 months, year, 3 year, 5 year? It's really difficult. And we've been so caught up in like this 2-year window that started with Saturn and Pluto conjunct, and we're really in a period waiting until Pluto comes into Aquarius, where I think that is going to change a lot of our focus. But in the meantime, we're like, what do we do? There's something here that is actually going to not only stabilize this, but allow us to actually use that energy of Uranus to wake up, right? And see that the changes in the material aspect are the result of what comes from this infinite void in the first place. So there's no reason to necessarily, I don't want to say freak out or think that there's nothing to prepare for, but there's something way deeper here that we can emotionally connect to. And if you're a Syrian Starseed, then this weekend is great for you in terms of re-establishing a connection to that Starseed origin, or to, it's going to be very easy to have contact. Let's just put it that way. With a moon in Cancer like this, it seems like that the capacity to be a receiver in that way is very strong. And so I have very specific Syrian contacts. They come in very specific forms, and there's certain things that we're doing. It's always music related with Syrian contact. They were the ones that told me that there were shapeshifters in and deceiving President Trump well before that became clear, like in terms of what, in terms of what we're being presented as information. And this was well before even the election in 2020. So I have a whole thing. So find out what your language of contact is, because I guarantee you it's specific to you. And, you know, Syrians are the ones who are able to not only understand vibration, but they are able to make impact through healing and guardianship by being in alignment or resonance with the natural frequencies and to use it. That's the difference between the Pleiadians. They are just in communion and living. The Syrian starseeds may have overstepped themselves when they introduced technology to humanity long ago that ended up being exploited, if that makes sense. So I feel like that, you know, there's probably multiple Syrian races around in the star system of Sirius that have had different types of interactions with us, and shape-shifting definitely seems like something they would be doing. So anyway, that's just an example. I'm not trying to talk about my contact experiences for credibility. I'm trying to let you know that everybody that is a starseed is likely having these experiences in dream time, in shamanic journeying and astral travel, and not even necessarily realizing it, because it's not like, you know, you're not getting beamed out of your bedroom and taken to a ship and have like full conscious awareness. I don't think really hardly anybody is doing that. Maybe Alex Collier, who knows? I can't even say. But let's move on, because that's really the last one. I'm going to check in with the chat because I want to see maybe the cuckoo was a cover combined with the death agenda to cover up ascension symptoms and make people think they were infected instead. Multitasking. I mean, possibly. I mean, I think it's more about like quelling that or dampening that, but maybe. I mean, I feel like I know the difference between my ascension symptoms and being attacked by an outer an intrusion. That's just me, though. Like, everybody's different. I did try flying multiple times as a child. I remember being very disappointed. Yeah, this is why I keep that in my dream state, because that happens all the time. Like, all the time. I'm just like, why can't I do this in being awake? Right, in my waking life. So let's move on to tomorrow, because this is where we're going to find our first quarter. Gosh, I'm really ahead of myself. Our first quarter moon and this amazing kite that we're going to see. So let me make sure that we can see this here. All right, friends. So I'll make it a little bit bigger. So what we see here is the 19 to 20 degrees. So we're really coming at the very last degree of that second decan, right? The second 10 degrees of the sign, ruled by the Three of Wands, the virtue, right? And as we talked about many times, the virtue at its most explicit and its fullness really is this like naive kind of young child feeding the birds in winter, right? This is 20 degrees of Aries, and we talked about how it's going to square the sun. This is our first crisis point. Remember this new moon in Aries, right? That we were following some sort of idealistic image, right? The flying V of the flock of geese, and it naturally does what? It repolarizes your own sense of self when you identify some sort of visual or mental image of cosmic order, alignment with a cosmic order, okay? So it's the moon in Cancer that is our deepest, most sensitive inner landscape time that is just like, hey, are we really in tune? Because you can identify and express yourself and mental, logically rationalize it all you want. But when the moon comes into Cancer, you will feel those ripples. You will feel the resonance itself. And this is where we're going to be like, does that feel, do I feel fulfillment? Will I feel fulfillment? And that's the question we're all going to have to ask ourselves. Lean into it, right? Don't walk away from the challenge, confront it, because it's an important step along the way for this whole lunar cycle. So what do we do, right? Well, what do we do? And I would say when it comes to what do we do, it's going to be a matter of what do we do in the experience of this tension, the ripples in our own inner knowing based on these things, right? So, well, what do we do is shown pretty much right after. So if we go, let's see if it, let's go back a couple hours, because when you see the kite in its fullness, it's really, yeah, there we go. It's really quite beautiful. And you see, now you're not going to see, obviously, you're not going to see the aspect line of the nodes, because that's the spine of the kite, and that would just be too easy, right? But just imagine, here it is. And so the moon, Jupiter, Neptune, and the south node is the water trine. So it has something to do here with where we've been at a soul level, the momentum moving us towards our destiny right now at a soul level, the soul of humanity, right? And when we look at 23 degrees on the nose of Scorpio, what is this? This is basically transubstantiation. This is taking base animal drives, which are exactly the drive to come together. That is, Scorpio is what makes the world go round, right? And the drive to generate some sort of, to generate, to produce, to distribute this energy is part of it too. And this degree is about taking those base drives, right? And having them go through a metamorphosis. You're raising them, transubstantiation, right? Trans meaning, you're moving across, and substantiation. This is a very powerful practice, right? This is what sexual alchemy really looks like when you are transubstantiating these base drives into something that is a resource that can be used energetically, spiritually, and we know economically with the South Node in Scorpio that this has been holding the space and will continue to do so for the decline of the current economic system, which is absolutely a Babylon money magic system of fiat currency. So, but it doesn't mean we can't remember the aspects and see how we've mastered this already and allow it to move us forward, right? I mean, in and of itself, these processes are not bad. It's what we've done with them or how we've exploited other people through these processes. But knowing how to do this is really important. It's the momentum pushing us forward. The moon in Cancer, Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces. Both of these two degrees have to do with being on a desert island, right? A small group of people that are on a very fixed position, surrounded by the water. The idea here that there is a technique with the moon in Cancer, right? Especially the emotions, right? This is really powerful. The emotional aspect of us is going to have to face the spiritual and mental aspects of ourselves and be integrated. But through Jupiter and Neptune coming together at this degree, this is very powerful, expansive, just like all of the meaning really coming to the front and having all of the power of Neptune and Pisces too, to realize our dharma, right? To take to be realistic and about our limitations and really focus everything on what our central purpose as a society truly is. And it's going to be through this technique of our own emotional integration, right? We're going to have these feels with the first quarter moon, but we take those feels and we integrate them into our spiritual self, into the mental self, and it's a process of interdependence. And this is something that we've done at a soul level. This is part of the transubstantiation of Scorpio, and you see that it's the spine of the kite towards the north node that allows us to fly. And where are we flying to? Again, natural value, intrinsic worth based on time, pressure, natural processes, right? The gem is made valuable not by us. We only identify it as valuable to us, but it's the forces of nature that truly have made it valuable. This is where our soul is pulling us in order to learn right now. It's our destiny. Now this kite is allowing a flight, right? And this flight is absolutely connected to the full moon that's going to be on the 16th. So just kind of put a pin in it. And if you've already gotten your forecast for the new moon, then you already know how it's affecting you or likely to affect you, because we talked about the full moon and this kite and how this kite is the flying of your transcendent consciousness at the full moon in conjunction with Arcturus, right? And so what do? There it is, right? There it is. We have to find a way to take not just our feels, but to integrate them into this threefold experience of who we feel like we are. And that's not going to be easy, but wow, look at how many opportunities surround this situation in order to do so, right? That we have everything we need, and it's in our feels, very much so in our feels. So when it comes to the other transits, we're going to find that there is a quincunx to Saturn around this time, and Mars, right? These are the Cancer Aquarian quincunxes. And then, as you can see here, right, that these lines right here, so the moon will be in a quincunx to Saturn, it will be in a quincunx to Mars in Aquarius, and truly it's just an adjustment, because you're talking about two signs that represent some sort of vessel that holds water, and so it's just a matter of adjusting perspective and realizing that they are the same basic thing, except one is the water of your own soul and spirit, and the other is the water and soul of the collective spirit. So it's not necessarily, it's not that they aren't meant to fit together. It's just that the perspective and the experience of it are different. So finding an adjustment here to how you're feeling the waters of your own soul and how they feel, excuse me, and then in relation to, of course, the brick wall of Saturn here, and even Mars that's still acting as the hydrometer, right? Testing the battery. And this testing of the battery, I think, is a really useful image right now for where Mars is in Aquarius, and especially with the waters of our own soul, right? We may have to make some adjustments as we are feeling possibly either full, over full. Maybe we're in a setting, we feel like we're in a setting that allows for us to take in information that is interesting, right? It's interesting and is, it's like an intellectualism that is the result of having all of the time in the world to be able to, educate yourself. Just think of like all of these, elites and, the some of them that are really interested in these intellectual pursuits and having the the emotional safety and capacity to just be in luxury, right? It's not, there's nothing there that is actually testing you. And I think this is coming out as what needs to be adjusted, because for Mars that's acting for the greater good in Aquarius, whatever that means to you, is again mental efficiency, testing the battery, so to speak. And I think that this adjustment is going to come because we will have to feel into, again, the waters of my inner soul, are they going to be able to hold the charge in order to actually solve real problems, right? So again, this is tomorrow on the 9th, and the moon moving into the last decan of Cancer. So it gets even more interesting because the moon comes into a square with Mercury later on Saturday, as we're going to see, and it's going to be in a T-square with Pluto, because the moon will be opposite Pluto again, right? This is something that has come up many times because Pluto has been hovering over this same position now for a while and is soon to go retrograde. So I remember the full moon that was also, the sun was conjunct Pluto and the moon was opposite both of those things. I remember having a very, very clear vision, a dream, a very visceral dream where a UPS truck came and hooked my house up to it and was going to transport it away. And I was standing at my front window going, how is the truck getting into my yard? Like I was confused because I thought it was so real. And I was like, no truck is going to drive. They can't. You have to drive over the creek. So I was so confused. And while I was confused, this was happening. And I'm like, oh shit. This is something that's going to keep coming back around every time the moon comes around to these last degrees of Cancer for a while, right? And it's depending on what else is going on, it's going to bring out different aspects of this, right? Something being taken away or a sense of security. Maybe there'll be a drastic move that's related to what Pluto is doing. And that's just for me. But you see here that Mercury is in a T-square to this position here. And when we have a T-square, it shows you where the energy of an opposition can be released. And even though it's squaring in both of these ways, it's just showing the conflict between these 2 points is actually drawing the energy away from the opposition into something, right? There's an actual, instead of just the potential energy of an opposition, like tug of war, it's they're each positions are now moving towards the T-square, which is Mercury, in conjunction with Andromeda Galaxy. So while we are grappling with our own, again, our own internal landscape and the depth of it, our sensitivity to it, in opposition to what Pluto is doing at a collective and social level, in order to create the space for something new to grow. It's Mercury in conjunction with Andromeda Galaxy in late Aries that is actually giving us something to do with that energy, instead of just being like, oh, I feel this opposition and this is uncomfortable. Well, perhaps we need to... Perhaps what draws it away is that Mercury that is, expressing itself come hell or high water, right? Maybe while we are attempting to find some reconciliation within ourselves, Mercury is just like, no, I'm standing in my sense of self. And I am so confident in who I am that I can actually stand up to the people that are disappointed in what I've done. Ooh. Wow, I didn't realize how much that was going to mean for me, actually. That's very interesting. So you can see this dynamic actually in play. And so Andromeda and Starseeds just is a good weekend for us as well to tap into those parts of our innate frequency, because they're really going to be part of the conversation this weekend, as much as it's really not very easy to go through. So, we'll go into tomorrow, of course, or Sunday, I'm sorry, tomorrow, when we're talking about tomorrow from, and this is where, we start to kind of enter the ring, right? And so the other thing we want to look at is the fact that the moon moves into Leo. Oh my gosh. So the moon's going to move into Leo. And let's see here. Oh my guys. Mercury comes into a direct square with Pluto. On Sunday morning, late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. And again, this is Andromeda in a square to Pluto. And this is about being in an alignment, in attunement to nature, the music of the spheres, right? Natural, attunement, cosmic attunement. Again, our minds, right? Our minds in cosmic attunement to the universe inside and outside of us, right? Is there resonance there? And Pluto is going to shake that up as much as any kind of square with Pluto would do. At least Mercury is able to move into Pluto's territory easily, but they're still definitely at odds with each other in this situation, because Mercury is in the realm of our own subjective experience of consciousness, and Pluto is like, I'm destroying society, right? Everything that you have relied upon for humanity at an institutional level is under the, is on the chopping block, and has been for years now. So this square is also going to be one of those challenges. Again, where is your mind? Where is my mind? Ooh, that Pixies song probably actually is more relevant than I even thought about till just now. But the moon is in Leo, so now we're starting to feel even more confident, even more sense of devotion to our own creative expression, even more like almost dramatic. A moon in Leo can be very dramatic, and that's not a negative thing necessarily. Leo is about drama, because drama is, what is it? It's an expression of the individual to the world and what comes from that. So the moon in Leo can have us feeling that way, but also very confident, expressive, creative, exuberant, joyful. My gosh, feeling joyful. Imagine that. So, but also can be very, like I said, the feeling of kind of like overconfidence, egoism, conceit, narcissism really develops like in that 4th to 5th house area for sure. And Mercury is going to enter Taurus. There's not a lot going on Sunday other than these two kind of bookends of Mercury squares Pluto, and then hours later comes into, by the end of Sunday, comes into Taurus while the moon is, doing its, her thing through Leo. So feeling confident, and then having Mercury come into Taurus, it's going to be a whole new experience in terms of our mind. We're really going to start putting that mental energy towards the the substance of the world. Let's just put it that way. And material concerns, right? And what is Mercury in Taurus? Well, Mercury in the 2nd decan of Taurus, actually, or the 1st decan of Taurus, is the 5 of Pentacles, the 5 of Coins, the 5 of discs, right? The 5 is worry. It is material crisis. So also keep in mind that over the next couple of weeks, the mind collectively, our mental energy and information is going to be way more focused on this. So you thought that we were getting these messages of food shortages now? Just wait until after the weekend. It's going to become substantial. And yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there for today. I'm going to check in with the chat and see what's going on over there. I'm really believing I'm connecting with people in dreams more than before. Oh yes, Barb, definitely about the NCR technique. There is website. Oh yes, thank you. That is exactly perfect for what he's talking about. I'm always on board for a feeling of confidence and joy too. I'm ready. Sounds like a great weekend. I think so too. I think there's going to, coming into the 1st quarter moon is definitely, we're all just still feeling like, what is it? What's, how am I going to deal with this polarization? Do I feel confident and secure in myself, right? In my own inner waters? And I think right from there, though, it's going to there's going to be so much opportunity to be like, like total emotional stabilization and this kite. And with Mercury crossing Andromeda, I mean, this is pretty great. Just in general, it's important to be aware of that, right? Mercury coming into my 3rd house, Andromeda, right, could be, I could really short myself out. I have to be careful. Because there's no boundary in the 3rd house in terms of your, it's as far as you can get, right? It's your immediate environment, but it's also the realm of all information and consciousness. And so there's no limitation other than what you physically can get to, and in your mind, there's no limit right there. So that's something that I am being aware of, because there could be I'm kind of glad I'm like alone and house sitting right now, because who knows how that could unfold. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you so very much. If you're interested in a reading, if you're interested in energy work to support your process, if you are interested in the Starseed Fellowship, everything you need is in the description box below, and you can find whatever, strikes your interest right now in terms of all of those things. My website has everything you need, has my story, my services, access to all of this content already linked from there. So thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. I will see you on Monday for Starseed Ministry. And let's keep in touch through Telegram as per usual. So I hope everyone has a great weekend. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. I do truly appreciate each and every one of you. So I'll see you on the flip side, and take care of yourself. Bye.